So, it's been a while since I have created anything on YouTube in a while. I've recorded a bunch of stuff, but I haven't published anything in a while. As I was thinking about coming back to YouTube and posting something, whether it's on YouTube or Substack or just my Facebook page, sometimes I will get into my head about like, how does it have to look? You know, do I need to offer a creative hook to kind of bring people in? And I don't really think that's what I want to do this time. And I want to finally chip away and chisel away at whatever resistance I'm facing around creating again on YouTube or any platform for that matter. So I thought I would kind of strip things back a little bit and not worry about the best practices on YouTube. Hopefully this conversation can be helpful for you, but more than anything right now, this is just me getting over the initial speed bump of inertia to get going again. And there's a little bit of an acceptance that this video or, the next few videos really are going to be pretty unstructured. It's going to be a lot of sort of just cleaning up my mental mess, basically, and just kind of like anytime I get into a creative project or any sort of work project or just anything around the house for that matter, there's always a little bit of that speed bump again, that like there's a little bit of chaos. And as I start grappling with it, things start to sort themselves out as I put things away, as I turn on the camera, as I just start talking, like things will progressively arrange themselves. And that's how I need to see the beginning of the return to doing YouTube again, or any creative endeavor. So I feel drawn to trying to post something like this that's a little bit more just, talking to the camera, kind of imagining that I'm talking with a friend and we're just kind of catching up. I do these things called walk and talks pretty much every day now, where I will go out on a walk so I can get my 20-30 minutes of exercise. If I feel the inspiration strike, I will just pull out my phone and I'll just talk into a recorder. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's just like a short 10-15 minute one. Sometimes I will like literally just keep walking and I won't stop until I'm done talking. And that can, like, I think one of the longest ones I've done is like an hour and a half or 2 hours. But there's like so much like gold and wisdom and intuition and solutions to my own problems that come out of that. And I keep thinking like it would be great to publish something like that on YouTube, but like that's audio only. And like, are people just gonna watch a YouTube video that's like just audio? And there's different directions I see myself going, like even just me practicing this was a very spontaneous decision. And I know that this is one valid option. I can very easily just make this a format and I could just decide that I'm just going to lean into this a little bit more. Like there is this acceptance that maybe no one finds it. Maybe I'm just bad at titling and thumbnailing and things like that. And that's fine. But coming up with like these different solutions on how I want to just put stuff out again, I am sort of accepting that it's just going to be messy. I have been adopting this little like archetype. I'm not really sure what else to call it. This archetype of the ruthless fool. They're almost like two concepts kind of that have now been blended together, part of which has kind of like developed through therapy and other like types of ADHD treatment and things like that. I know there's probably a whole lot that I, have since changed since I last made a post on YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff I'm glossing over right now, but I just want to get into the practice of making something, editing it and publishing it, like just kind of getting through that process as quickly as possible so that I can kind of reconcile that part of my soul and my being that is like, yeah, you want to make something. Why are you not doing it every single day? And I'm going to find a lot of my own answers through something like this. And I think this is why I want to use YouTube. And some of the feedback that I get from some of the people that I host calls for, like in our group coaching with ography or just one-on-one conversations with people, I can get positive, constructive feedback about how useful it was just to hear my ramblings on things. So why not just ramble on things, and why not like figure out how to take some of my thoughts and maybe make it more concise for some of these? But in the beginning, it's going to be messy. It's just going to be messy. And there's a strong acceptance and a lot of like firm nudging to myself that I am needing to do to myself to make myself embrace the mess. There's a way of talking that I do on my walk and talks that I want to bring to this. And on the walk and talks, I try to speak as if no one will ever listen to it other than me. So there's a lot of practicing being very honest with myself, being very open, allowing a lot of pauses and spaces in my communication. Like when I don't know what I want to say, or if I have I ask myself a question, and I don't know the answer, I'll just like walk for like 30 seconds without saying anything. I'm still rolling, but So there's a lot of silence in my own walk and talks because I'm allowing myself to slow down and to process my own thoughts without feeling rushed. But to kind of practice that sort of honesty, that sort of authentic expression is what I want to cultivate here. Like there's a way of showing up verbally. There's a way of showing up that happens when I'm verbal compared to when I'm just in my head. Like I tend to be a lot more critical and negative when I'm just in my head versus when I'm actually having to speak things out. So that's why I want to practice it. And I'm starting to tangent. The Ruthless Fool is two parts, ruthless and fool, obviously. I had been thinking of this word ruthless in the way that I've been approaching different changes in my life. I've been a little bit more ruthless in my decluttering process. I guess it's probably one of the more notable areas where I've been ruthless, is like just being more honest and with myself about like what I actually want to keep, what is actually useful. And I'm having a more ruthless, a more assertive, almost like an aggressive sort of, there's a little bit of angst that's kind of built into the ruthlessness of some of the approaches that I'm taking to different things, whether that's the decluttering, whether it's the like deleting bookmarks and stuff like that. It's like I get fed up. There's like all this bottling of energy, and then it kind of like spews out like a volcano in a way. And that's when the ruthlessness kind of gets transmuted into progress, or I make progress by using the kind of ruthless energy. Like just a very distinct level of honesty and truth to myself, from myself, about these different things. And it's involving decluttering, it's involving some other decisions, it's involving like the types of activities that I want to get back into, since I had been sort of in this weird mental funk for so long, and I'm like revisiting hobbies. It's related to like social connections. It's how I'm protecting my time. Like even putting my phone on do not disturb and like not answering phone calls. The ruthless approach is almost like when I'm more in tune with myself, there's a more convicted sense of self that comes out when I'm doing things and making decisions. And it's still a work in progress. Like I'm like, sometimes I kind of like hang back from it, and I should be being more ruthless compared to how I've been. And, maybe I need to be more ruthless in my boundaries, because I'm seeing like a pile of things on the floor that I had to push aside so that I could do this video that I haven't been doing, that I should have done yesterday. So maybe there's like more ruthlessness in the decisions of like, nope, I'm not going to open YouTube. I need to close YouTube. I watched YouTube too much today, and I just need to sit with one thing right now, like just one thing. Because like I avoided that one thing all day yesterday, so I apparently can't do one thing. I mean, I did other things like this. We have to remind ourselves of this too. Is like we're making progress in other areas, but sometimes I will like define, this is the one thing I want to work on today, and it just kind of like sits on my desk for a while, and I just kind of bounce around it, and I do all these other things instead of working on this. So having to channel more of the ruthlessness in my decisions as well, like how I'm spending my time, what I'm choosing not to spend my time on, and to be more ruthless in protecting my boundaries, be more ruthless in expressing myself and being honest and authentic in as many situations as I can that feel right to do so. So that's the ruthless part, like this energy that I want to go about my day, and how I want to make how I'm making my decisions. The fool part is basically just allowing oneself to be a beginner again, even in things that maybe were a thing that we did a lot before, but maybe there's been a big gap in time since we've last done it, aka posting on YouTube. Taking the fool's approach to things is allowing oneself to be a beginner, which means kind of starting at the starting line again. It means allowing yourself to mess up, make mistakes, and just know that that's part of the learning process as well. It also means embracing the fact that others will see you as a beginner, see you as making mistakes, see you as being cringy, and judging you for different things. Allowing others to see you making a fool of yourself. And when I combine both of these concepts, the ruthless fool, it's like this ruthlessness to be myself, a ruthlessness to be authentic and expressive, and a ruthlessness to be a fool, to allow myself to do a video like this, for it to be watched by no one, to put in all this work because it feels so right to me. It feels like there's something at me that is clawing at me to do something like this. And it like nothing on this list was on my list today to talk about in this video, but it's a part of like this process of just kind of stumbling through the beginnings. And I know there's a time and place for sort of having like a mentor or following a guide or a format or something like that. And sometimes you just need to get started. Like you just need to kind of blunder through some of these like first few videos or first few articles or first few paintings, first few decluttering processes and decisions. There's a time and place for the mentorship, for the coaching, for the guidance, the blueprints or whatever. But at least for myself, I don't know if this is like a neurodivergent thing or if it's just whatever my life circumstances have brought me to, is like I kind of just need to face some of the things that someone could quote unquote tell me, that I could read in a book, that I could watch in a YouTube video. It can be helpful, and sometimes it can stick into the back of our brain. But both of those things are not actually doing the thing where we're actually going to have a kinesthetic type of learning. And then, as I'm getting momentum, maybe that's now when I start sprinkling in a little bit of like someone that's further down the road, they can kind of provide some pointers or whatever. But I don't have the consistency, and I don't have the kind of routine about things for anything I'm reading online or in a book or listening in a YouTube video or getting advice from a friend. Like none of that is going to land if I don't have like a bed in my garden for it to go in. I haven't built the garden, and this stage for me, everything that I'm like trying to push myself towards is building that bed. Like there's no plants in it yet, but I'm trying to build the bed so that I can start planting some seeds. And then maybe my gardening expert friend can come in and tell me like, oh, don't forget to water it. You need to water it. Like, or put some, grow lights on it or something. I don't garden, but I do have some plants somewhere in here. But that's kind of the approach. It's like, I feel like I have a tendency to kind of seek out advice or to seek out YouTube videos or books or whatever, which is like step 2 and 3 of the process, when step 1 is like, maybe build the bed for those things to go in. Build the garden, put the dirt in, and start planting some seeds before you start putting in like, premium grade fertilizer. It's hard to fertilize things that aren't actually there. So I'm trying to work on step 1. That's what this ruthless fool approach is. This ruthless fool archetype is allowing oneself to be a raw beginner again, to allow yourself to be seen making mistakes, to be seen, being potentially cringe. Because I wager that for people that are called to certain things, there's something inexplicable inside of them that is kind of guiding them in a constructive direction. And this is what I'm trying to trust, and what has been so difficult for me is trusting that process. Because there's like the YouTube thing, the creating thing, like calls at me so often, but I'm like hiding from it. I'm like resistant to it. There's like this fear of putting myself out there, even though I've already done it in lots of different ways already. So why am I so hesitant this time? And it's like there's this council or judge panel inside of my brain that is like constantly evaluating every single thing that I do and want to do. But I know that like when I do something like this, even just me in the creation process of me setting up a light and figuring out where to put my camera, all this setup, where I'm going with this is all of this setup is engaging a different part of my brain. It's engaging a different part of my sort of awareness on the experience. Like my physical state is changing. Now that I'm talking, I'm feeling a lot better physically. Like if nothing else comes out of me putting in this work and effort, it's still a net positive. Like there's not much or little now that I can think that would be bad for going through this process and even publishing it, even if no one watches it, or even if some friends watch it and they think it's super cringe. It's like, so what now at this point? Like, I feel like to experience any sort of like criticism or whatever, or like the loss of connection, wouldn't be any worse than like kind of what I've already experienced or have been experiencing for years of just like kind of a lot of isolation, not a lot of like reaching out to friends. Like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This isn't like black and white true. All of this to say, being a ruthless fool is sort of the archetype that I'm wanting to embody moving forward, as it pertains to YouTube, as it pertains to writing, as it pertains to decluttering, figuring out what type of work I want to do next. There's so many like uncertainties, and one of the least helpful things for me to do right now is to keep thinking and keep planning, but not doing anything with those thoughts or these plans. I was low-key challenged by my therapist. My therapist is great. He doesn't really like give advice or suggestions, but he asks very unique questions. And one of them he asked me was like, I wonder what it would be like if you never took notes again, or you never wrote anything down on your to-do list, something of that effect. And like that stuck with me for a while. Like even this is a huge improvement compared to the normal type of notes that I would take. And I think the question came up because I tend to mentalize a lot. I tend to be in my head a lot. I tend to have a thought and I need to put it down on paper, maybe because there's like a lack of trust in myself that I'll remember it. But I think what is happening is like all this writing, all this planning is it's like I'm constantly like pulling down ideas from like the ether, from the ephemeral space of creative, where creative ideas live or whatever. And it's like I need to capture it because I'm afraid I'm going to forget it. And to an extent, that's not a bad thing. But I think in the process of doing that, a part of my brain also associates every single one of those as super important, and I need to do it. And so when I'm writing down 10 ideas, 30 ideas a day, and they could be little like to-do actions, it could be reaching out to a friend, or it could be a YouTube video idea, or writing idea, or someone I need to call. When I'm generating that many things a day and they all feel equally or significantly important, it starts to bog down my brain a lot. And especially if I'm not actually making progress on actually getting them done, crossing them off the list. And so there's a reconciliation process that I'm going through lately this year of almost like a grieving or an acceptance that like I cannot do as much as my brain wants to think I can do. There has to come a time where I finally start deciding that not all of these are important. And so which ones are? And that's a part of what this process is a little bit of having to like fumble through the forest to figure out which things are worth pursuing, which actions do I really want to do. And a little bit of like kind of doing away with all the lists, doing away with all the notes, and just sort of being a kinesthetic being and less of a like a mental over planning, over analyzing being. To be someone that kind of just like intuitively does things. Because sometimes when I do that, like a lot of progress gets made. And sometimes I do like deviate off of maybe something that I had thought was super important that day, but it ends up like creating this other opportunity over here. Or I finally get something off my list that had been on there for weeks, but it only took me like 10 minutes to do. So yeah, that's the Ruthless Fool, is in doing all of that and sort of like being in this method, like this is where I'm going to learn a lot. This is how I'm going to learn how to make these videos better. That's how I'm going to start to grapple with my mind and realize like maybe I could, not have to ramble for 25 minutes or more to get a video out. Or maybe part of the Ruthless Fool process is actually learning that, so what if it's a 40-minute video when I just make a 40-minute video every single week and it's always going to be on whatever day it is that I actually get this published. Like maybe that just becomes my long form sort of sit at the desk and talk about a topic, or do my version of a walk and talk. For the most part, like when I watch other people doing something like this, it's just sitting in the background. It's on a second monitor. It's on my phone, but I'm listening with earbuds. That's fine. Like however people want to watch or not watch or whatever. But like the point is the Ruthless Fool, allowing yourself to do these messy things so that you can learn, so that you can get the experience, so that you can get the answers yourself, so that you can develop your own creative muscle and problem solving muscle to figure these things out and to kind of figure out your own voice through actually doing things. Like my approach to making this video or writing something can be the thing that sets me apart when I'm not doing it the way I'm quote unquote supposed to. And maybe there's a space for me to practice the complete opposite side where I follow someone's blueprint or I follow a specific title structure or something like that as a way to like learn from other people, to figure out what I like, figure out, what things can I extract from that. But above all, the Ruthless Fool for me right now is just allowing myself to do a bunch of stuff and to learn through that process, no matter how it looks. And that's one of the hardest things for me right now, is like to do it in despite how cringy or how cringy it might look to someone, or how much I might, feel the judgment or whatever, is like to still do it anyway. And that is one of the obstacles I keep facing with creating anything, whether it's experienceography, kind of promoting it a little bit more, YouTube, writing, or whatever. There's always like this like resistance of like, what are people going to think? I have to remind myself that it kind of doesn't matter. Some things might, But most of the things I'm worried about getting judged for, like, kind of really don't matter. There's a level of unmasking that is happening for me this year, but a part of my being is still holding on real tight of like trying to maintain a certain image, or just trying to maintain no image by like kind of lingering in the background and not actually talking or putting anything out. But the ruthless fool will put himself out, will put herself out, no matter how messy or silly it is, if it feels ruthlessly authentic. If it feels ruthlessly authentic. If that makes sense. As in, we're not just doing things to be foolish, although now that I'm taking improv, like, it's almost like we're intentionally being foolish in some areas, but we are embracing the ruthless fool. We are being ruthless in our pursuit. We're allowing ourselves to be a fool, to be seen as a fool, because we're doing something that matters to us, that is important to us, that feels like our heart and soul is like calling at us to do this thing. And I don't think it's necessarily like doing it blindly without reason either. I think there's still a level at which we can still be reasonable about things, but if I'm trusting my intuition about things, there is a little bit of just kind of trusting that things will be fine, that things will actually be way better than I can anticipate. And if I get some sort of signal inside of me that like this isn't the right thing, it's not like I'm just gonna keep forcing myself to be a fool and to be ruthless about this, but there is, I think there can be a distinction that we can sense inside of us about, am I drawn to this and I'm only resisting it because of some fears? Or am I being turned off from doing this thing anymore because it's no longer in alignment, or it can legitimately be more destructive to our life rather than constructive? And I think that's something that we can feel and we can intuit in ourselves. So using the ruthless fool is more about embracing this side, the sort of, we know this is something that calls at us, but we just have some resistance and some fear about it. And hopefully in the process, we're going to learn a lot more about ourselves. We're going to learn a lot more about our craft, our interest, our hobby, our system, our process, whatever the thing is, our decisions, whatever it is. Like, we're going to learn a lot more in the process of being ruthless and being a fool. To kind of sum it up, really, like, there's YouTubers that I follow that also have a second channel. Like, they have their main channel, it's like all their hyper produced videos and stuff like that. And then they have their second channel. It's the one that like doesn't have as many subscribers because they don't promote it or anything like that. But it's like they'll do like the unpolished videos, the sort of talking heads like this, where they're just kind of catching up with friends or in their followers and things like that. Very often I was more drawn to the second channel compared to the first channel. First channel is probably how I discovered them, but the second channel is where I feel like I really got to like learn from them and really kind of see their personality shine a little bit more. To kind of sum up a lot of this, is like for the next however many months, I basically, as the ruthless fool, to be a ruthless fool is just to adopt the idea of this channel being my channel 2. But I want to embrace channel 2 energy when it comes to making these things, where it's like there's not really much of a structure yet, but I think I will find structure, and I will find more of my voice, and I'll find more of what resonates with people as a result of kind of putting things out and just seeing what sticks, seeing what I like, seeing what kind of sorts itself out. But it's like I'm needing to use this sandbox of YouTube, of writing, Substack, Facebook, blah, 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 as a way to kind of build my garden bed. Right now I just have a bunch of dirt all over the place, and I don't even have like the wood boards to like make a garden bed thing. I need to build the garden bed, and I need to move all that dirt into the garden bed, and I can start figuring out what I need to plant, what's going to grow, what's not. But since I don't have a garden bed, I have to embody the ruthless fool. I have to embody the channel 2 energy and just sort of like work at all these different things to get the garden bed built. And that's going to be a little bit of, you know, figuring out, okay, what kind of lumber do I need? How big does it need to be? Do I need to cut it? Do I need to, ask some friends? Do I need to blah, blah, blah? Like, there's too much overthinking in my day-to-day life and not enough just like doing the thing, not just talking it, not just recording it, not just editing it, not just publishing it, not just moving on to the next one. There's too much of sitting here, journaling, watching some YouTube, journaling, watching some YouTube, journaling, watching some YouTube, etc. You get the point. At a certain point, like, the watching stuff, the overconsumption needs to come to a halt. I think there's some great stuff on YouTube, and I know it's slightly ironic that I'm like trying to cut myself off of watching YouTube while also making things on YouTube. That's a whole nother like topic or whatever. But I think that there's a time and place for some of the watching of YouTube, of getting inspiration, of finding solutions to different things. But I'm not making the things. And that's what I want to start shifting my priorities into. There's more of the making, more of the doing. And whether it's YouTube or writing or whatever, maybe it's just decluttering and minimizing my life and going through all my papers. I think that's going to be a big thing, big theme. Whatever it is, like allowing myself to focus on that rather than deviating myself to watching things and to there's too much information coming in, too many ideas, too many things coming into my brain instead of me processing things through the process of doing them, which is how I'm going to like kind of disperse that energy. How I'm going to actually see progress on things. The days that I think I'm doing the best, one of the qualities is that I will literally only choose one and at most 3 things that are really important for me to do that day. And so the thing for me today is to make a YouTube video, to be in the creative process. But that was like the essence. And like, I'm not like trying to belittle journaling. It's just I'm using it as a way to avoid. So when I did my morning pages / journaling today, that was the decision that I came to, because I used that one style of question from the One Thing book, which is like, what's the one thing such that by doing it, all other things become easier or unnecessary? And I modify it a little bit to be more like, what's the one thing such that by doing it, I would feel really proud of today. I would really feel really proud of myself, where I'd feel like I made a lot of effort. Something like that would be really fulfilling. And creativity was again and again, has been the answer for the past few days. And so I'm finally getting myself to do the thing. But it's this aspect of one or a few things at a time, ideally one, because I'm coming to terms with, this is like the grieving process that I'm having about my ideas and things that I'm called to, is that not all of them are important. I only have so much time and energy to realistically get something done. Knowing how distracted I get, knowing how inconsistent my sleep has been, but it's getting better. All of these other factors that kind of affect my ability to get things done. And sometimes I can just get a lot of things done by not really having a list and sort of just using my visual cues to make me realize I have to get through these papers, or I have to do laundry or whatever. Like, this might be an ADHD thing of like needing the visual reminder about things. But when I have like a whole big mountain of things, I can get really overwhelmed and like all of it just looks important and I just do none of it. So if I can just pick one aspect today, one particular activity or project, and just focus on that, I will realize how much time it takes to get that thing done. There's more things that are involved than I realize. There's more steps. Each task is way bigger than my brain realizes. When it's just a single line on a piece of paper, it doesn't feel like it's going to take up that much time. I don't know if this is like an ADHD thing, like with time blindness or whatever, but like I have one task, 2, and 3 tasks, but like if those were my biggest tasks, it doesn't seem like it's that big on my paper, but in reality, it's like, this is task 1, this is task 2, and this is task 3. Like, that's how big the tasks are for my day in reality. And so if I have like a million things that are like this size on my paper that I want to do today, like there's no way I'm going to fit like this size thing in my day when I have 30 of them. Creativity might be my size 3 task right now. And like, if this is my day, like it's good chance that like it's going to take up this much energy of my day. Like, this was my morning, this is my evening, and my 3 might literally be that big of a task. I don't know. I might only be like half that or whatever, but like there's all these other like things that I have to do around it. But when I try to fit like this size task in like 4 different times, like it's gonna be like way down here, like 40 hours of a task in a 24-hour day. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And that's what I'm having to like realize through this process of picking one thing, of kind of being a ruthless fool and pursuing some of the things that I want to do, is like having to come to terms with like the reality of how much time things take. And by just journaling and stuff like that, I'm not actually getting to the process of seeing these things through. I'm having to kind of reset a lot. And I know that's been a big part of this whole like ADHD treatment process. It's like unraveling a lot of understandings and beliefs that maybe were constructive and helpful at one point, but are not anymore. And it's like entering this new era, this new chapter. And with that comes a lot of messy learnings and messy beginnings and restarts and things like that. So, yep, that's me. I don't know how to end this. Thank you for listening. I am not going to make any promises about anything because I'm so chaotic right now, but we're working on it. But the goal would be to create things like this a little bit more often. This is a little bit longer. Hopefully, I, might not need them to be this long, but who knows, maybe people like the solo podcast style creation. But I know all of this did encompass the aspect of restarting and sort of getting back into the creation process and some of the obstacles that we face along the way. And I genuinely hope that like some of my sharing with other people can be constructive and useful for people. And even just the way that it's shifting me in this process of creating, that it'll start changing the way that I see interactions with other people, and I can start to show up differently. Because like right now I have a whole different like sense of self-awareness that is happening and how I want to communicate things to you. So I guess to leave it for myself, the ruthless fool would do his best to edit and publish this video in whatever way his foolish process edits it. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next one, whenever it is. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you soon.